Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. So I wake up this morning and, I'm doing the usual, checking out the news. And I see where there was some sort of conference, and it was a gentleman from North Carolina. If I say his name correct, it's Boliak. And he was talking in front of a convention, and he was talking about the problem that they have in North Carolina with potential fraud. And in particular, what he's talking about is in North Carolina, there was an explosion in autism therapy billings that has gone up 47,000% in 5 years. And let me just point out that 4 of those years were during the Biden presidency and 1 during the Trump presidency. So the spending went from 1.4 million to 600 million. And they're saying, you know what? This looks like fraud. Yeah. The problem I have is where were they looking into this? Let's say at the halfway point, 23,500% of an increase in spending. My God. This should have been flagged and caught a long time ago. But I think what's happening now, to at least some degree, is they know that there are all of these citizen journalists out there looking into potential fraud in pretty much every state. And these people are doing it for an economic reason. They know, or they've watched Nick Shirley, and they've seen it, not just his popularity, but the amount of likes he gets on his videos. And the number of likes is not just a vanity thing. That's, in essence, what is determining what this young man is getting paid. And I do think it's safe to say that if Nick Shirley isn't already a millionaire, he's soon going to be one, because his numbers are off the chart. And I keep saying, why does it take these amateurs to go out there and find this fraud that's so open? That's the scary part. Nobody's doing anything about it. Now, this article continues. Now, this Boliak, who I cited, he is the head of the department that checks for fraud in North Carolina, and he claims that they're working very closely with J.D. Vance. And this brings about an interesting point here. Looking at the big headline today of the Liberty Daily, we see it says very clearly, and let me quote here, "Is Marco Rubio the new heir apparent to Trump?" End quote. And Marco Rubio's consistency of not just doing a job, but doing the job superbly well is making him noticed in many quarters. And many people are now putting him in front of J.D. Vance in the polls, determining who will be the next Republican candidate. Now, I believe it's Marco Rubio's doing his job. I think he's going to continue to do his job. He looks really good. And let me say, in my personal opinion, I would definitely think Marco Rubio would make a much better president than J.D. Vance. But J.D. Vance is going to have the opportunity to let all of us see what he's made of, because he's in charge now of this fraud department. And they're doing a lot of investigation, and that's something that the Republicans are really good at. They investigate. They don't charge anybody usually with anything. They just do a lot of investigations, and then they wait for a suspense time, sometimes statute of limitations, sometimes other things that make moving forward with the fraud problematic, which makes me often wonder, are they complicit in it as well? Because the Republicans make so many promises when they're out of office to get back in office. And I just don't get it. If you go back in history, and you don't have to go back too far to go to the time when Newt Gingrich was president, or excuse me, was Speaker of the House, and Bill Clinton was the president. And Newt came up with something somewhat unique. He called it the Contract with America. And he had his points of all of the things that they were going to do if the public would put them in power. And the Republicans won enough elections to control the House, and we know that Newt became the Speaker of the House. And Newt did well until they went back to their old tricks. And then, of course, they lost power. And since that time, when they come back in power, they apologize profusely, and they say they know where their mistakes were and everything. But then they go out and they do and commit those same very mistakes again. And that makes me really, really suspicious. But it's going to be, moving forward, interesting to see how this plays out, because you got these two parties. You got Marco and you got J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is normally, in normal times, who would get the nomination for the presidency in 2028. But, I think there's a good chance Marco could do it. And, of course, there's Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, who he also has his eyes on that big prize. But I'm not sure, right now he's very, very low in the polls, and I'm not sure what it is that he can do at this point in time to raise himself. So I think it's going to be between Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance's success is going to would be the vehicle that could propel him to victory. Okay, in the last presidential election, that loony leftist Kamala Harris, fortunately, she lost. But I think one of the factors in her loss was she was appointed by Biden to be the border czar, and she did absolutely nothing to the border. I don't think she went to the border, and she certainly wasn't doing anything to ebb the flow of migrants coming over. And I think that was a strong contributing factor to people deciding, hey, we don't want this woman running the country. The sad part about this is she's still delusional enough that she's contemplating another presidential run. And I find this hilarious. She dropped out the last time she ran, and she dropped out before any primary vote had been conducted. She just couldn't raise the funds. All you have to do is listen to this woman speak, and you know what? This should not be the woman that we want in charge of our country. So I hope J.D. Vance does well with this fraud, but it just seems to me all we ever hear about is the fraud. And when it comes to the arrest, yeah, there's been a few arrests of the low-level people involved in this, but nothing yet from the main people, the politicians, those that are getting sort of like it is believed that Joe Biden was the big guy who got us 10%. And you can bet that these politicians are getting kickbacks from all sorts of scams. And sadly, I believe that both parties are complicit in this. And that's why there's pushback. Notice how quick Doge made a name for itself and then disappeared completely off the radar. We don't hear anything anymore about Doge. And why is that? Because apparently there were some Republicans who had their hand in the cookie jar, and they don't want this exposed anymore. And that's why I believe, I ultimately think this country is doomed. Our debt is insurmountable. We're in a doom loop. It's going to collapse. I don't know that anybody knows how this is going to actually play out, but something's going to happen, kind of like the Bear Stearns moment or something like that. And this time around, I think the whole system's going to collapse, and it's going to be basically every man for himself. It's not going to be a nice time. And the one thing I do hope and pray is that I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Only time will tell. We're going to get to see that. And but anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe 2 or 3 months from now, I'll do a follow-up video exactly about how many arrests we've heard about here in North Carolina over this what I'm going to call obvious fraud. There's no way that they can justify that kind of increase, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And with that, until my next video, I wish you all well. I want you all to stay safe. It is a crazy world out there. And I often think, well, it can't get any crazier. And then I read the news and realize, yes, it has gotten crazier. So with that, I will leave you for now. And again, have a great day. Bye-bye.